Welcome to Rudolph Valentino Connections. This is a post I put up in September, actually, so it's out of order, but it was a difficult post to make, and I've just decided to put it up now. It's out of order from my discussions of the chic I've been doing lately, but I wanted to get it up tonight. It's entitled Rudolph Valentino, His Body Ravaged as He Died. He Received Giggles in Death. As we all know, there was intense media scrutiny and an interest in his death. And finally, he was buried September 7th, 1926. His second funeral was held in Los Angeles. And that day was in marked contrast to the out-of-control days in New York City. When his public viewing was held. That was originally planned to last until Friday, August 27th, but it was cut short after the viewing deteriorated into an uncontrolled mob-like event. There was an article which was the headline, Premonition of Early Death. John W. Considine, Jr., who produced Valentino's pictures, revealed that Valentino had told him several times that I shall die young, I know it, and I shall not be sorry, and I would hate to live to be an old man. Of course, he got his wish, but sooner than he would have anticipated. And one of the wishes he expressed as he fought for his life was that he would have a public viewing in the event he died. And this clipping has a quote here from the people at the undertaking parlor, saying, "We understand that it was his wish, if he should die, that his public be permitted to view his body." Now, Valentino, of course, suffered greatly during his final days, and he had wasted to a shadow of the image he projected on the screen. Now, the morticians who received the body at the funeral parlor actually had a very difficult job to do. Because despite the ravages of the poison which took Valentino's life, he wanted to have a public viewing, but originally the actor's personal representative announced that there would be no lying in state. But W.H. Hull was called in. He had worked on bodies that were people had died at the Panama Canal Zone. And what he did, he knew of a bombing process that would restore completely the star's features to the comeliness familiar to motion picture fans throughout the world. He used photographs. The embalmers worked throughout the night, trying to recreate the Valentino who had caused female hearts to flutter wherever his films flickered. He said that the body will retain its restored state practically forever. The technique they used had been used with Enrico Caruso when he passed away in August of 1921 in Italy. The Times-Union in Brooklyn, dated Wednesday, August 25th, 1926, had a story by the reporter Ted Le Breton, and he recounted what had transpired the days before in an evocative piece called Valentino Riots, a Morbid Orgy. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's rather distressing to read, but I'll give you a little sampling here. He started off by saying that Rudolph Valentino's cold, lifeless image, waxen and unreal, laying like a flat, smashed thing beneath a glass cover on the second floor of Campbell's Funeral Church. He said it was peering through the glass coffin was like looking through a glass case in a museum. He only weighed 102 when he died, one employee of the undertaking firm whispered. It describes the body. I'm not going to go into it now. You can read it. But he ends that surely this smashed body with claw-like hands was not the ardent lover in whose veins had coursed fiery blood. And of course, there's a picture here that really shows that the description was very accurate. He described also how a line of mourners entered the funeral parlor. It was raining. The line went up a winding staircase. And then he describes the mood of the visitors. And this is where it gets pretty bizarre, macabre, whatever you want to call it. And I suggest you read this because it's a long group of descriptions here and comments, but things like, gosh, wasn't his hair thin? And why didn't they do something unusual? Why didn't they dress him in white? They could have made his chinks a little fuller. It went on, and it was like a show. There was really very little reverence. The following day, on Wednesday, August 25th, the body was relocated to the ground floor of the funeral church in the gold room. And there were still girls giggling outside as they entered the place. And it was raining. It was very dull fog, drizzly fog. And the crowd was maybe, quote unquote, perhaps a bit inclined to be unexpectedly gay yesterday, but today the attitude seemed to change. But when the doors opened at 9 o'clock, the first two people in line were two tourists from Indiana, and they said they just were planning to leave, but they couldn't leave without seeing Valentino. Now, another woman who said she had met Valentino 2 years before at a dance, saying that he was just so handsome, but he doesn't look like himself at all now, she exclaimed, and burst into another fit of sobbing. The early reports of more reverence on Wednesday were soon revised in later editions of the papers, like the Brooklyn Daily Times, and the public view of Valentino ends tonight. Because George Ullman basically had enough. He said that there's just not enough. There was no reverence. He said that it was mostly excited curiosity, laughing and chatting as people would emerge from the room where he lay. He just said, basically, it's gone far enough. And he also said that he was shaken. He was still shaken even on Thursday, August 26th, when he was quoted saying, "I loved Valentino so, and I thought the whole world would reverence him." But they closed it down to announce that normal decorum and dignity now prevails. Now, among those in the mobs, there were surely some who did truly mourn Valentino. But the purest demonstration of distress came from his beloved animals, and of course the story about his beloved dog howling at what seemed to be the moment of his master's death. That's well known. But there was another animal in Valentino's life, Yaki, the horse Valentino rode in his final film, The Son of the Sheik. There's a clipping here. Arab horse used by actor senses death of master. He was restless in his stable, and the keeper's sage remarked, "Horse sense. Guess he knows somehow that the boss is gone," said one old stable hand as he watched the horse nervously paw the ground. So at the end, Valentino's animals mourned him without judgment as he lay in the funeral church in death.